Fatima Bosch, the crown that became symbolic violence. Today, we're tackling an uncomfortable but relevant topic for our evolution as humanity. Have you ever wondered why, whenever a woman, especially a beautiful one, achieves a goal, people question her merit? Let's analyze it. The crowning of Fatima Bosch as Miss Universe 2025 sparked a debate that extended beyond the pageant itself, exposing potential political interference and casting doubt on institutional credibility. Where digital misogyny and the fragility of public legitimacy, when a woman rises to prominence in a space traditionally controlled by corporate interests and patriarchal narratives, were clearly the main focus. This, of course, triggered a wave of personal attacks on social media, revealing patterns of symbolic violence directed at women who achieve global visibility. Several media outlets documented that Bosch comes from a family with a political background. They had to delve deep to discover that her maternal aunt is Mónica Fernández Balboa, a former senator for the Morena party. Her father, Bernardo Bosch Hernández, was linked to the energy industry, as well as to Raúl Rocha, president of the Miss Universe organization. This sparked suspicions of a possible conflict of interest. Adding to this was the resignation of Omar Harfuch as a judge, who reportedly stated that the competition was already rigged through an unofficial committee that selected the finalists outside the formal process. These reports point directly to an opaque structure that casts doubt on the neutrality of the pageant. Here, I'd like to digress for a moment, given the current situation, which requires distinguishing three levels. First, the real existence of political and economic ties. These are documented, and although they don't prove collusion, they do create a context where public perception becomes especially sensitive. Second, the issue of institutional transparency, the lack of clear rules, the intervention of inexperienced evaluators, and the absence of verifiable voting mechanisms undermine the credibility of any outcome. Third, the responsibility of the organizations. When those involved belong to power networks, the duty of transparency doesn't diminish. It increases because public trust depends on robust evidence of impartiality. However, I don't intend to challenge the legitimacy of the result. What I need to highlight is the aggression on social media. Bosch has been the target of attacks ranging from legitimate questions to openly misogynistic aggression. Comments that reduce her victory to connections, favors, or manipulation are not always supported by evidence. Many function as automatic disqualifications of a visible woman, especially when her story includes power, beauty, or financial security. Symbolic violence manifests itself when criticism ceases to be institutional and becomes personal. We must pay attention to the message, and whether it questions not the pageant itself, but rather the morality, body, authenticity, or intelligence of the winner. This phenomenon reveals a familiar pattern. When a woman rises in public life, society tends to subject her to more severe scrutiny than her male counterparts. In Bosch's case, the narrative that her victory was given has become a mechanism to diminish her agency, as if her participation involved no effort or merit whatsoever. Demanding transparency in the process is valid, but it is not legitimate to transform criticism into widespread aggression disguised as civic outrage. Bosch's response, centered on faith and a personal vision of destiny, has been interpreted by some as evasive and by others as an affirmation of resilience. Regardless of how each audience interprets it, the relevant point is that her speech has attempted to shift the discussion away from her personal life, while the public conversation continues to demand explanations, questioning her competence, abilities, and integrity. The pageant committee, for its part, by not making the selection criteria transparent, only fueled the perception of rigging, generating ratings with the scandal without taking responsibility. In conclusion, Fatima Bosch's coronation cannot be interpreted in isolation. If suspicions of manipulation exist, this should not be asserted without a serious investigation, much less used as a pretext to unleash online harassment against the winner. It's also important to remember that the model was already at the center of controversy before the awards ceremony because she felt attacked and spoke out to stop it. Ultimately, public opinion tries to sell us the idea of political interference, to diminish the hard-won crown. Without highlighting what's truly important, beauty pageants must abandon the perpetuation of patriarchal dynamics that devalue women's role in positions of power and success.